to Blue Boys Podcast, episode 24. Before Brian comes in, me and Sebastian are going to talk about Premier League. It's a very great week for Arsenal, and we're just going to go through each game, give my notes. Sebastian, whenever he wants to, will chime in. But in essence, Arsenal came up on top. They are 3 points clear of City, 2 points clear of Liverpool, 3 points clear of City, and two really great games in particular. There was City and Tottenham and Newcastle, Manchester United. Not great games, but games that are very significant in the title race. So we're going to talk about those in particular. So let's start with Arsenal. Not much to say really about the game. Straightforward. We were very clinical coming off our 6-0 win to versus Lens. Lawns, yeah.
One of those French names, yeah.
Yeah, a little revenge from our original loss from them in the group stage, but we were very clinical. 6-0, if people didn't know. Every single forward player scored, especially Havertz, who started off, so that's good for us. We come in, we start the game really well. The second goal, Siebes, I'm sure you'll agree, was a beautiful team goal, Wenger ball-esque. So we go up 2-0 in the first half, and then we kind of have a mental fart at the end. Zinchenko loses the ball and they score in the 86th minute. It becomes a little dicey for a second, but we pull it out. So not much to say about Arsenal. But really all the other games we'll talk in reflection of how it affects Arsenal. So next game that wasn't really of note was, well, I didn't really think about it before. But, Steve, anything on the Arsenal game before we move on?
It was fairly straightforward. Zinchenko had a pretty horrible game, honestly. That would probably be the only criticism you could have on the entire team. And him costing us a goal that made the end nervier than it had to be was unsurprising with the way that game was going for him.
The yin and yang of Zinchenko, because he makes the second goal, and then he gives up a goal. That's how it kind of goes. So we'll move to Liverpool, Fulham. 4 brilliant strikes, like wonder goals in this one. Alexander-Arnold had 2, McAllister had 1, Endo had 1. They basically trade blows, and then in the end, leaves Alexander-Arnold the finishing blow. Really great strikes, as I mentioned, like the type you go on Reddit and you see like 10,000 upvotes for one of them.
McAllister's particularly was amazing in my opinion.
Yeah. What I would say to Liverpool is, you mentioned it last week, Sebastian, they have the spirit, and Klopp is a fantastic coach. And they just, even though they are defensively kind of leaky and they have a bad habit of letting goals in, they always come back with these like fighting spirit. And one thing I noticed about this game, in Liverpool in particular, even though Liverpool has only won Champions League, and won one league title, they carry the championship spirit, in my opinion, a lot better, this group of people, than City. Like, they have that resiliency you'd expect of like the earlier Warriors, if you want to get our Lakers and stuff, so they come back in more games than I've noticed. Anything on this game shouldn't have been a note, but it was only of note because Liverpool make it like that.
They're just so resilient. I've said it time and time again this season. When they went down 3-2, I actually thought this is going to be the one. Finally, they're going to drop some unexpected points.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they got the third one, I was like, they're going to get the fourth. You could tell just by watching the match. Fulham did their best to spoil it at the end, and they just couldn't maintain. And then Liverpool just went full force for that fourth goal.
They played great. Fulham, kudos to Fulham. They played great.
It's the second time. I mean, they took 2 points off of us in a very frustrating match.
I blame the rain on that one, but go ahead.
Yeah, I get you. The weather wasn't great. But that was just, I was getting flashbacks to our match and being like, at least it wasn't only us. And then Liverpool,
Yeah. Anything else on Liverpool? Like I mentioned, just it shouldn't have been a game we noted down as being significant. It happened to be because Liverpool kind of did what they do and let a lot of goals in they shouldn't have, and had to claw their way back. And for a minute, it looked like it could have been a more perfect day for Arsenal, but it really wasn't. So let's move to the 2 big games. I don't think we need to talk about Chelsea, right?
feel sorry that Brighton's fading so quickly because it was really
Yes,
fun to
yes.
start the year. I don't have much to say about Chelsea, but just more so on the Brighton side. I wish it wasn't happening this way.
They they are kind of sapped out. Their key players play pretty much every
Yeah.
game. So and they run a lot. They run I think
And
more than anyone.
they play Europa League, so it's Thursday, so the turnaround's faster, I think.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
for small club, it's really tough.
Yeah.
And so I expect them to play spoilers going forward, like to the big teams in the later half of the season. But they're not going to be competing for any European spots at all. I don't
Probably
think.
not, no.
So let's move to City Tottenham. Brilliant game. Uh, we were kind of Arsenal fans and probably even Aston Villa fans now. We're circling this, looking and saying like, "Oh, this is an opportunity for us." And it was a brilliant game. I think the Sun goal really at the beginning really galvanized Spurs and gave them kind of belief. Um, the difference between them contending, the Spurs I'm talking about, the Spurs contending and them being fifth or sixth, or the quality of a fifth or sixth team is kind of proven in their injuries.
Yeah.
They're Madison and there's a couple other key players they're missing too. Um, so when you think about it like that, do you know any other ones, Sebastian? You think you were saying something?
No, I just know
Madison
that
is the key one.
Madison's the key one, but it seems like pretty much every match they're picking up a new devastating injury. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's Madison, Romero is on a red card for this match. Um,
Yeah, I was going to mention Romero's his own doing, and I hate him. He's one of my least favorite players.
I
So
like Romero because he's Argentine, but it's a
karma,
different.
just
Yeah,
oh, I see. Okay.
Sar is injured.
Okay, sorry.
Betancourt,
Yeah. Okay.
Perisic, like it's a lot when you look at the list
And
of
Core
players.
was the one that got tackled very rough and
Yeah,
by a bad tackle that didn't go to red or something. So it's even more reason for them to be salty. But this Spurs, their injuries are decimating them. They're dropping and dropping. But to me, that's where they're going to be at the end of the season is around 5 or 6 because they play an aggressive brand of football. And I would I don't want to give them credit and say they'll probably be fourth, but
I
Aston
think they'll
Villa
be
looks
fourth.
really yeah,
I
Aston
don't think
Villa
Villa
and
just dropped 2 points to Bournemouth though. I mean,
yeah, well, we can talk
Champions League
about
contenders don't do that.
true.
Yeah.
But then also Newcastle's in the fold as well. So
Mm,
and
yeah.
You expect Liverpool and Arsenal and City to be there. But for Spurs, they have Aston Villa next. That's a huge game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's tough for them. And I don't want like they're Spurs. I hate them, but they had to show a lot of heart. And your boy Ange is a very charismatic guy, and it's people seem to rally behind him. So
Love him.
anything on Tottenham before we move to City?
Actually, Villa has City next midweek, and then they have
Oh,
Arsenal
I'm sorry.
on the weekend. Yeah,
I okay, yes. So, do you know who Tottenham has next? Let me see.
I have it open, so let me just look it up real quick. They have West Ham next, and then Newcastle on
Okay,
the weekend.
okay, that's the game I was referencing. Sorry, the
Yeah,
Newcastle game is going
that's
to
a
be a
big
big
game.
game
That's
for
a huge match for Champions League implications. Yeah,
correct. So, anything you want to say on Tottenham before we move to City?
I was just impressed with how they came out in the second half. It was a more defensively compact Ange team than I think we had seen, and I mean it made sense because they were going against City. But I just thought Pep kind of got outmanaged in this match.
Interesting. How? Why do you say that?
I just feel like the way Spurs played in the second half, they kept bouncing back, whereas Guardiola's team kind of lost their composure at numerous points and let Spurs back into the match. Wasn't anything super tactical, just felt like Ange got his team playing at a higher level or in
That's fair.
comparison to what's expected.
That's fair. My read on it was that it was actually a player issue, and that's what exactly goes to my
Oh,
point.
that's
For
totally, yeah. I have that
I
as well
think it
for
was a
City.
mentality issue, and uh, a lot of people talk about the trouble malaise, post trouble malaise, and stuff, and I kind of see it. But to me, a bigger thing that's happening is yes, they miss KDB and him like bailing them out with a fantastic pass here and there. But what they really miss is Gundogan controlling
Yep.
the midfield for them. So like that's a big miss on their part. And last point on City, like I don't think yes they only have 3 points in 3 games, but I expect them in Feb March, April to be there, so I don't think we really say anything about this game in particular. But I will say, when you play three quick players on the wings, or up to like in essence what we would play a City, a Gab, uh, a Jesus, a Martinelli, and a Saka, who are really quick players on in your forward players, and you play against four center backs, you can get exposed for pace. And I think two times in this instance, Son beat Doku, who was covering for one of their center backs in the first one, and another one, I can't remember who, but one of the center backs was out of position on the other side. I think it was Akanji. So like,
Yes, I think that's correct.
yeah. So when this happens, you have to like, yes, you're like invincible in set pieces and stuff, but you do get hit on the counter if you, for some godforsaken reason, you lose possession out of touch, and that kind of happens sometimes. So that's City. Anything for City and Tottenham is a great outcome for Arsenal fans. Last game of the match, and the one we're going to spend, I have the most to say about. So I'll let you start, Sebastian. Man U and Newcastle.
I just didn't. I thought it was a very low quality match, if I'm being honest. I mean, if you enjoy like the Ten Hag saga, then it was probably like
Like me,
football
like me.
football porn for you. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah,
enjoy it, but I've also gotten over it because he seems like a fairly nice guy, and I start to feel bad for him when I see these post match interviews.
I thought he
And
was until I saw that beret today.
oh, that's fair. That was a bit egregious. I liked him at Ajax, so I'm a bit partial. Like, I that what
Me
that
too.
Ajax,
Me too.
yeah, the Ajax run to the Champions League semis was one of the more memorable things that's happened in Champions League over the last decade. So, yeah, I've wanted it to work out, but I think this is getting closer to it being time, just because he hasn't beat a single quality opponent this year.
Or last year. Do you see that
Yeah,
statistic?
basically, yeah.
One was it 8 points versus the top eight. He's never won in like the last
Yeah.
2 years, and he top. And that's ridiculous. It's like one of the worst stats I've ever seen. And um, so anything else on your side from Manu? Anything for Newcastle?
I thought Newcastle did what they were set out. I mean, they did enough. It felt like they were kind of bossing possession, and yeah, I felt like this thing that's consistent for me with Manchester United. It's not really a Newcastle thing again. It's just you're watching it and you're like, this isn't like how a prestigious club like Manchester United should be playing.
Bingo,
Yeah,
bingo. So let me get into it. So do you know Mark Goldbridge, right? I sometimes
yeah.
after Manchester United loses, I go and I watch him just for the lulls. And he had a great quote today. He said, "Don't eat a cucumber from a woman's prison, and don't trust Manchester United away." And I think it's appropriate. Like they're garbage, and they're like just terrible. So let me get into it. Ten Hag. To me, the reason why I don't like him is he's so damn arrogant,
Yeah,
and he ostracizes his players to save his own hide. But I'll get into that. But let's just talk about his transfers. Anthony, who my distaste for, Onana,
yeah.
Amrabat, and Mount, 240 million pounds or whatever euros, gone like that, and basically useless players. You can't play any of them. Onana is just killing them right now. He's playing Luke
So
Shaw as a
weird.
he's playing Luke Shaw as a left center back to prove a point that he doesn't have the players he needs to play out from the back. And he's benching Rafael Varane, one of the best center backs, who's injury prone for sure, but is one of the best
Yeah.
center backs of the last 10 years, just to make a point. And then he's playing a subpar left back. And then to your point, like you said exactly, how do they play? Are they counterattacking? Are they pressing? Are they possession based? Are they long ball? Like, how do Manchester United play? Back in the past, they would always be a counterattacking, like pressing team, right? And now Louis Van Gaal tried to make them a possession based team, and he kind of got excommunicated for doing it. And now all three managers after have tried to make them like a counter-attacking team, and now he wants them to play from the back again. It seems like so cyclical. I don't understand it.
They
Um,
play like a low. mid-table La Liga team, which is not
Explain that.
good.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
feels
it's
like
not good.
they're
Yeah.
often they don't really care about possession. They try to play out the back. They try to kill the game often, it feels like, so it becomes this unwatchable, disgusting mess.
But then
Um,
they push all three central midfielders
yeah.
forward, and it's counterintuitive to like I don't know how to do it
Yeah,
because
there's too much space to play, like, it's really hard. I just find them to be increasingly difficult to watch, even, like, in the Champions League matches when they're barely beating, like, a Copenhagen. I'm just like, "This is disgusting football, what you're doing right now."
yeah.
Um, so, I don't know.
Mm.
The Onana thing to me is so bizarre because he was so good last year, and
Mhm.
he's come here and he's just been, like, objectively horrible, and it pains me because I like him. So, like, I see all the hate he gets,
You
and
you could
deserved,
argue
but
he's the worst player in the league right now.
probably he's one of them. He's been one of them. I think the pressure's mounted, and now he's very in his own head, and I don't know. I don't think he's a bad goalkeeper. I think it's the situation.
Yeah. Uh, so they had an XG of 0.09. Let me rephrase that. 0.09 today. Okay.
I saw
Newcastle had an XG of 3.
0.38. Yeah, I saw Newcastle with 3
Maybe
and point
maybe
0.3
I
so
misread it, but
bad.
0.38 is bad. Anything in between like that. But just to wrap a bow on this, two players I want to single out on Manchester United. I hate Ten Hag. I don't hate Ten Hag. I revel in Ten Hag's kind of misery because of how arrogant he was before. But now two of his players, one is Rashford. Everyone's talking about Rashford, how much of a sulker he is, how he throws his hands up, he doesn't do any defensive work. And basically, once he got his fat contract for the next 4 years, he's kind of checked out. And there is some whispers of him like leaking things to the press about uh, dissension amongst the troops, and so in the locker room, and that's always the first sign of when managers have to go. And then he needs to pick it up, or he needs to decide he needs to leave because no one's going to want him on that contract. He's getting paid like
Mm.
250 or $300,000 a week. So and then Harry Maguire, who we all used to loll at, and he was the butt of the joke. He lost his captaincy the beginning of this year to Bruno Fernandes, which was looking like a worse and worse decision after every day. And people like you, I think I mentioned it when Anthony was talking about my Anthony rant is that like he gets such disrespect from everyone, the fans, the media, even players sometimes on his own team. And he played the best today, and he's been playing the best. You could argue he's the best
Yeah,
player for them this year.
he's been
Yeah,
soldiering on,
and
like, it's actually
soldiering on.
commendable.
Yeah, and that's what you want from your captain, who ironically he got stripped of from. So it doesn't make sense to me. Like he was the only one giving hard, going after the ball. I think he had like one final chance in the end. Like no one's playing, and he's trying. The center back is going up and scoring. So uh, kudos to Harry Maguire. I also kind of laughed at him occasionally. Some of those back passes were really bad, but he did really well. They have Chelsea and Liverpool next. They're fucked.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
and Bayern too, I believe. So yeah. Oh, sorry,
it's
Chelsea
bu
and Bayern next coming,
yeah, I believe
and Liverpool coming up in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, yeah.
to basically beat Bayern to get to the knockout stages,
And one of them,
and
the other team has to tie, right?
yeah, exactly. Copenhagen and Galatasaray have to tie, and they have to beat, Bayern, and also even just to
Either
get into Europa, they have to beat
win,
Bayern
yeah,
or draw, I guess, and then have Galatasaray or Copenhagen basically get beat very badly. So, like, they're
yeah. So
looking at no European football at all, including Europa.
three tough, incredibly tough games for top tier. Chelsea's on the kind of on the mend, but three
It's
top tier.
Bournemouth, by the way. It's Chelsea, Bournemouth, Bayern, then
But then
Liverpool
they do
after
play
Bayern.
Liverpool afterward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So 3 out of the 4 games are going to be brutal, and you know that Copenhagen and Galatasaray will not tie. Just to fuck over Man U. One of them is going to win. They're going to go out on the game like
Because, yeah, there's Galatasaray, the way they play, they're
exactly.
so attack heavy. They'll press on to try to win even at their own detriment.
Yeah, exactly. So Manchester United not looking good. If Ten Hag gets through this, I'll be very surprised. And like so, and then for Newcastle, uh I would like their story a lot better because they are a storied franchise. If for two reasons, they didn't consistently fuck us over in the league with these
Yeah.
bad calls and stuff. Not them, but in the games we play them, we consistently get fucked over by the refs. And two, if the money, like I'm one of the guys who doesn't really care about like Saudi Arabian money. I'm on the record saying like it's everywhere. And so like if you the Saudi Arabian thing is it just seems for them it's a little cheap because it's also it could be affecting the refereeing, and I won't go all the way over there, but like it's just those two reasons it's a little shady for me. This the money from Saudi Arabia, and then the fact that we always lose against with really bad refereeing calls against them. But anything on the Newcastle resurgence?
I just hate the 12 o'clock match. It's not a good time of day for a match to be. I think it should be already done by 9:30 or
Fair
11.
enough.
The 9:30 should be. That's all. And I feel that's a Newcastle appealing to Saudi audiences move.
I see. Fair enough. I mean, enough said. Hello, Brian. Welcome.
Hello, good to be back. I'm excited.
I want to congratulate you on your 7-1 or 8-1 dismantling of
6-1-1, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Still good, yeah. But fantasy has gone well for the shit tier, dude. As Arjun so eloquently put in the group chat, the shit tier is rising, and it's getting smelly. Okay.
That was a bit far.
But go ahead.
I'm grabbing the Febreze, man.
Okay. So the three anointed tier 1 players.
Not by me. I'm not self-anointed.
Yeah, who anointed the who?
It was the only reason I'm phrasing like that because it was evident in the stats that there was a significant difference between these three players and the other player and the other players. And now Arjun, when he told me, like, I didn't process to me, but when he said he won 2, it's like, okay, he's pretty close. So we gave him the little bro title. But Andrew lost, JT lost, Arjun lost, Sebastian lost. Okay, right? Those 4 players all lost this week. And JT, they're all going off. They're getting unhinged. So all in their yeah. What, Brian?
I was gonna say I'm ready to take Andrew out of the anointed category, dude.
Good for you.
I think I realized that his ring was way long ago, and we're done, dude. The Paul Pierce comparison was perfect. He's just gassing himself up to keep himself relevant, but I don't think it's actually real anymore, dude. It's not real anymore.
I said it.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Career Paul Pierce was always talking about the one title, and it's like, bro, that was like 7 years ago. You gotta chill, bro.
So I think I said this to you, Sebastian, but Andrew's only magnanimous when he's winning. Okay, and so I asked him about I asked him about like a trade, and he gave me like a very salty answer, and then I was like, Andrew's pretty nice about it when I ever ask him for honest advice. And then I look at, like, it only came to my attention later that he was down like 7-1 at the time. I was like, oh, okay, he's losing and he's getting salty. And then JT had the chlamydia comment that was completely unhinged about.
That's so funny.
It came out of nowhere. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, dude, what the hell?
Arjun generally salty, saying like, how is it on your high horse and stuff. And then Sebastian with the congrats in top of November comments consistently, and
facts, bro.
And a little sparring with Johnny. So like, yeah, the top 4 are getting a little unhinged here. So
but I'm Gigi Buffon apparently.
Yeah, I said that because I didn't know you were. I thought you were winning this week, and then I looked and I was like, oh, Sebastian, I should retract that statement. You don't deserve it this week.
I'll be back.
I'm just glad to be out of last for at least a week. And dude, like, I'm top 4 in like 5 categories, and I was last. It doesn't make any sense, man. We just need some get back. That's all. And this was a good week to start the get back. Unfortunately, I play Sebastian next week, but it seems I need to keep my get back going, man.
I'll
Like
just
the
say
natural positioning, dude.
it's hard being a two-sport fantasy athlete, and if you look at my history, I typically do a little better when the first sport ends in around January. I'll just say
All right,
this. But
fair
also,
enough.
like, for some reason, everybody on my team just has hip injuries, and I don't know what the deal is, but it seems to be a consistent theme that just randomly dudes are getting sore hips or hip contusions, or I don't
It's
know.
all about hip
I'm
flexibility.
gonna have
Brian
to,
was championing it like for many years.
yeah, I'm gonna
There you
have to
go.
start. Well, I'm big on it too, so I'm gonna have to gather the team around, and we're gonna have to do some yoga or something.
Pilates or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just glad I ended up with at least a 6-1-1 because I was asking for, like you said, Ashwin, asking for fate to hand me the 8-0, and then Tyrese went out, Draymond hits a few threes, Donovan Mitchell had a bad game. I'm like, dude, is this headed for another epic collapse of the universe shitting on me, dude? But it's not as good as an 8-0, but I'll definitely take a 6-1-1, no
Yeah.
doubt.
So actually, it's just a competitive season to start out. Everyone's playing really hard.
Everybody should make fun of Andrew because he's last for now, I think.
Oh, for sure. We'll bring it up later. Speaking of which, next week is 25th episode. So
Is it?
yeah, we're on 24 right now. So
Are
I was
we?
I think Brian more than
Yeah, that's
anyone.
what I'm looking right now. Yeah, we'll double check, but
Double check, but like if it is 23 and we have 2 weeks, that's even better. But the idea is I wanted to do something with as many Bool boys who can come during this time and talk about like the history of the Bool boys, so to speak, because it's 25 trying to do something special or some type of like
yeah, for
game or
sure.
something. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, game of the week, Pac-12 championship, Oregon, Washington. I have a lot to say about this, so we'll start with Brian. I know I might surprise you, but Brian, why don't you start? Because as many people know, you're a Washington alum.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, pretty good game. Really excited for it. Really exciting for the Pac-12 title, and we'll do a little, like you said, unwinding of the Pac-12. I mean, it was pretty sick when Michael Penix went for the final run. I think that's kind of just what it was like a bunch of plays. I don't know, it lasted like a few minutes for basically the whole field, and that basically closed out the game. Had a lot of fun watching it. But yeah, Penix had a huge game, but only one touchdown. But it was pretty good overall. What about you
Steve,
guys?
anything?
I just think this game was a little different than the first one in that Washington just felt like the better team. The first one they won and they felt like they felt equal, like they were fairly equal teams. This one it just felt like Oregon kind of got outclassed, and my biggest takeaway was just that slow start that Oregon got off to really doomed them. It changed everything and they couldn't recover.
It's a good read. I kind of felt like it's a tough loss. Obviously, always so close to getting in the playoffs. I think I did some research last time we got to a playoff was 2014, 2015 with my boy Mariota.
Wow, really?
Win the
Yeah.
first game, and then we lose in the championship. And then since then, we've always been flirting with getting into the playoffs. So Oregon's got a real chance out in the forest. Oregon's got a real chance to make the playoffs, and it's always like we shaft ourselves by losing a key game, or SEC bias always wins or something like that. But like this was a really good chance for us to get in, like probably a surefire chance. If we win, we get in, and
Yep.
we lost. But I don't feel like I was pretty salty at the beginning when we were down 0-20 or like something like that. And I was like, this is how it's going to go. But we fought back. We showed a lot of grit. We made it really exciting. And it was just a great game. I enjoyed watching the game. Like it was, it came down to, we couldn't get a stop. Is it Penix or Penix?
Penix. It's Penix.
Penix, yeah.
Penix
I
is a
thought
little
it's probably
crazy.
best. So Penix makes like, they're running it every time to kill the clock, and then he just makes a little like jump pass over the top, and then they get the first down conversion, and then it's just game. So I would have liked to see Bo get a chance to go back at them, but they just managed the clock really well. He's a fantastic quarterback, in my opinion. He's probably going to win the Heisman. So it is unfortunate. Anything, Seeps? I have one more thing. Like it's basically, to me, if it's not like if Arizona or Utah beat us, or like even USC or UCLA
It's
beat
way
us,
worse.
why? Why do you say that? I think it's better because
It's
it's
because if USC was kept out of the playoff by losing to UCLA twice, I would be very fucking angry. Like, it's just very hard that it's the biggest rival keeping you out of the playoff by beating you twice. And on the
is it?
flip side,
Yeah,
it's like one of the greatest seasons in Washington history, just based
yeah.
on that alone.
They
But
are better than us. You said it yourself. Like
yeah,
they're better than us. I can't really. We're a great. I think we're like probably top five or top six, but they might be 1, 2. I don't know.
my thing is, I think Washington is just one of those great teams that it doesn't always look super impressive week to week because maybe they'll play down to the level of their competition, but they know how to win. Like, they know how to do just enough to get over the hump. Because, I mean, coming into this game, Oregon was a 9.5 point favorite, and that was based on, like, when you looked at common
Hype.
opponents. No, common opponents and the margin of victory. Washington's was like 7 or 8 points, I believe, and Oregon's was like 20-ish. So Oregon was killing teams that Washington was kind of squeaking by.
Hmm.
And that led me to my other takeaway that I kind of feel Oregon is a bit of a front running team in the sense that, like, not that they fall apart, but they're uncomfortable when they're in a real battle. And the two real battles they've had this year,
Please.
they've ended up losing. I'm just saying this team currently, like, I
I'm
I
not. I'm
think
not disagreeing with you. I'm saying, of course they are. Like we every time we've got into the situation where we can get into the playoffs, like we just don't do it. Like we lose
that's
to a team
it's
that.
different cultures though with different coaches. This is the Lanning era, so I'll view
Yeah,
it
I
in a
like Lenny a
separate.
lot. So
I think he's a
I
good coach.
he's risky, but yeah, it's tough. But they are Washington. So I think I was looking it up. They have like the best uh, passing offense in the league
Hmm.
in America. They're super nifty with the way they call plays. And surprisingly, like they got you would think like a team that's so gifted offensively is like deficient defensively, but they got the stops they needed. So
Exactly.
What's
um,
next for Oregon?
Liberty.
so we'll probably play.
You're playing Jerry Falwell University in the Fiesta Bowl, I think.
Oh my god.
You'll be huge favorites, and if you lose to Liberty, it'll be one of the more embarrassing bowl losses because Liberty was undefeated, 13-0, but they had the 133rd strength of schedule out of 133 teams. So
I don't want to talk about it anymore, but let's just talk about Pac-12.
I'll say one thing about that game, the Liberty Oregon game. Somehow, because I was going into that hoping Liberty got humiliated, whoever they played, the committee figured out a way to make me pull for Liberty. I'll just say this: Go Flames!
Okay. So before, like, just to wrap up the whole Pac-12 thing. So, Steves, you mentioned it to me, and it actually made me like realize like, um, this was the last Pac-12 championship game. The week before was the last Pac-12 weekend. It's kind of done now, and it's over. What I'm saying.
Hmm.
And I kind of regret not going to Las Vegas. I think I was talking to Steves as well about like it's just there, and like Pac-12 has meant a lot for us, just not in basketball and in football, even like uh, track and field when I was in Oregon. So I wanted to say like my history of the Pac-12, my relationship with the Pac-12, and maybe you guys it mirrors your guys, and you can jump in and say your own. But my dad was originally from USC, so I started watching Pac-12 with Pete Carroll's era with Reggie Bush and Carson Palmer, and then the next iteration with Matt Leinart. Then my sister went to Cal, and so I'd watch a lot of Cal football. And I think the one Cuba I remember is Nathan Longshore.
Hmm.
Is that right? Is that a real name, Steve? Yeah, okay, yeah,
I
Nathan
believe that's
Longshore.
the name, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there was one more guy, Anderson or something, but uh, then I would watch a lot of Cal, and then I went to Oregon, and then even though like one of my biggest regrets is that I never won a raffle to get a ticket, and I never paid for a ticket to watch at Autzen, but I would just watch a lot of the I watched a shit ton of the basketball because it was 2 minutes away from my house and it was free tickets, and so it was like really cool to like get involved in Oregon then, and then now after like 8 years later, 5 years later, still like to keep up with Oregon football, and like I always root for them. It never happens. Same with Oregon basketball in the tournament. So, and then interwoven with that is this love affair that I've had with a certain Bill Walton that Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Siebes introduced me to. That just made like Pac-12 basketball so damn interesting to listen to. So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, and that's why I'll miss it. So if you guys have anything similar you want to share about Pac-12, then we'll kind of finish it up.
Yeah, I have a little bit. I mean, I similarly like started watching. Just it was a thing to do basically when you're in SoCal to watch like Reggie Bush and
Yep.
Matt Leinart at the super hype Pac-12 games, and actually going to USC, it was fun to be a part of it. Those rivalry games are, it always feels like, especially with USC, like any team you play in the Pac-12 is basically a rivalry game. And it was always fun from a more casual college football fans perspective to be a part of those games, build up rivalries, people who went to those schools that we would play, we just talk shit and things like that. So it was always fun being a part of it, and, such a spectacle watching it on TV. And so it just feels strange that it's basically over, because it felt like such a staple of just like my viewing experience, and like, oh, here's these big games. And even as somebody who doesn't watch as much college football, that was something I could kind of hang my hat on, of like, these would be the hype and really exciting games to watch. So, rest in peace.
And USC basketball too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
who was the main player when you were there? I remember Jordan Bell would always walk his French bulldog right in front of me on the way to like class and stuff.
Oh,
and
really?
like, so yeah, and he lived near the basketball stadium. But like, who was your main basketball player?
I actually don't remember.
Was it Mayo?
No, Mayo was a little before. I'm trying to remember right now off the top of my head as well.
We weren't very good at the time.
We
I remember I'd actually
okay.
go.
That I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'd go to those games by myself, dude.
Yeah, I went to one or two by myself. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
We had Kevin O'Neal when we were there. Dwayne Dedman was there.
Vucci Mane?
I think Vucci Mane eventually was there.
Yeah.
When we were there. I think like the year most of us graduated, not me. It was like Andy Enfield's early stages, and we weren't necessarily the most talented. Jordan McLaughlin came in fairly soon, and he was pretty big in building the program. But yeah, like Ashwin brought up Bill Walton. To me, that's like going to be the thing I miss the most, because like there was just something about like when you would be coming home. Like I lived by myself, so I'd come home and like be like looking forward to listening to Bill Walton on the call at night. It kind
Go
of
off
like,
on a tangent.
yeah, kind of like, I don't know.
Get blasted and listen to him like it hit,
Yeah,
because he was probably
exactly.
blasted too, dude. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. It
The
felt like
way
we
he
were on the
spoke,
same plane of consciousness, and it just there was something about like, yeah, your classes might have like sucked that day, and like just kind of wanted to like go home and have something fun to look forward to, and you'd go home and you'd hear Bill Walton, and it'd be like, this is Walton's world, and it'd talk about him like riding his bike, bake this shit through like the Oregon forests or whatever it was. You're like, I love riding my bike through the Boulder Mountains, and it's like, oh
yeah,
man,
I mean, that's
like,
the funny thing about his rants, is that it's always like he's obviously omitting it on TV that he was baked as hell or something, but it's like, why do you're like burning incense? He's like talks about like burning incense with natives or something like that.
The first like 3 or 4 years he worked with Dave Pash, he definitely knew his name.
What I was gonna say.
He definitely knew his name,
funny.
but pretty much every broadcast he'd be like, wait, what's your name again? And it was just like, this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the Pash experience, like him and his interactions of him like hassling and like ribbing him constantly, and Pash trying to take it as best as he can, was another key factor for me. It was just very funny, man. I'm gonna miss
They
that.
were a great duo, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the future is. I hope he still calls like West Coast Big Ten conference games, but I don't think he'll ever refer to the Big Ten or as the Conference of Champions. I think he's too loyal.
Yeah, I hope not. Okay. Anything else on Pac-12? It's very unfortunate, and I'm saddened by the way NCAA is kind of moving. I don't know how it will affect basketball, really, right? Seeps, do you know? Is that
I
ironed out?
know that for the conference tournament for the Big Ten, it does not appear that every team will qualify for it. It's going to be like 16 of the 18 or something complicated. It seems like it's still getting ironed out. Um, and yeah, just
Just
to add,
read. It's just
like I've said from the beginning, it was kind of always trending this way, and it's ultimately going to be for the best in the future. But it is really shitty that it had to get to this point because of bad leadership and like the fucking Pac-12 network. I
that's
think the Pac-12 network is ultimately one of the biggest fuck ups in conference
they should
administrative
make a
history.
documentary about it.
The Pac-12
There's that
network.
one guy who's no, they apparently there's this one leader or commissioner of the Pac-12 who made some really bad decisions who really fucked them for a long time. But my thing is that if I
Larry
could do a
Scott,
little
right?
pseudo, yeah, I could be. I don't want to. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But he was that. There's obviously that. But one of my pseudo busts would be like all of these ads at these big colleges are just kind of like petulant children. Like there's some talk about like not giving Oregon and Washington any money for next year because they're leaving or something, or like
Oh,
UCLA
that
or
the
UCS.
lawsuit, right?
Yeah, the lawsuit, and then how they may like make decisions exclusively for money as opposed to like the well-being of their students and stuff. And they're very vindictive and like full of revenge and spite. So it just seems like they're all petulant children. So that would be a pseudo little bust for me. Um, uh, anything else on this, Siebes? Brian, you too? Anything?
No, that's
All
mostly
right,
it for me.
let's move on. Bool or bust. Bool or bust, top five, courtesy of Steve's Bastion this week. He especially requested it and gave us
Steve's
time.
Bastion.
Steve's Bastion. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
That's me.
so I'm looking forward to that one. It was very tough and actually kind of maybe think a lot about like my music taste because I it was very difficult for me and then it became a little too easy. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
um, so who wants to start with Bool or bust?
I can start.
All you, Brian.
For my Bool, or honestly, it's honestly not that Bool. I'll actually make it kind of a bust. Uh, now that I'm just thinking about it kind of more, it's that I'm like kind of lukewarm on it. I just came from Culver City. It's like comfortable, and I was gonna say it's Bool because it's like a cool place, but it kind of reeks of like the sterile environment of an Irvine. So I saw a
Yes.
bunch of white Teslas and all
Mm.
that, and so like while I was comfortable hanging out with my cousin there, I just on the spot had to change it to a bus because I kept on trying to like say, oh, like what's kind of a cool area around here to hang out, and my cousin's like, dude, this is it, man. Like like going to Pete's Coffee, like this is basically it. And then we went on like they have something called the Culver Steps, which you go up and then you go down like a ramp. Essentially, it's just like the super curated. It's supposed to be like an athletic hype kind of thing, but very IG vibes. And Culver has a lot of IG vibes. There's a lot of influencers going on there, so I'm actually going to move Culver to a bus. That's my first thing. For a Bool, I would just say I fixed my car recently. Honestly, just fucking driving again. It's
Little
pretty
clap.
freaking great. So I owe y'all a couple rides because that's kind of been out of commission for a while. Before going home today, I did just take a little detour to Long Beach just because I wanted to drive around from Culver City. So simple Bool, but driving. While it's not usually looked at as a good thing in California, I feel like I always have a special spot for just popping on some beats and cruising for a while. So we're back. That's
Yeah,
all.
you're king of that. Remember that from high school, Brian. Where are you going, Brian? I'm just going for a drive, man. Just need to
Just need a cool, dude.
just need to cool off and listen to some
Just need a
beats.
cool,
Yeah,
dude. Just need a cool real
for sure.
quick, bro.
I'll go next. I have two Bools, so and maybe a sub bust. So my first Bool is I might have mentioned my neck has been kind of out of commission. I've been getting a lot of knots up here. And so I've been using I tried Icy Hots and I tried Thermacares, and I actually knew this for a long time, but Thermacare is the superior heating pad out there on the market compared to like Salon Pass or Icy Hot. For the life of me, every time I use an Icy Hot, the adhesive comes off within like 10 minutes. And these things are supposed to last for like 8 hours or 10 hours, right? You wrap them on, they stick and stuff. But Thermacare always works. It heats for like more than, it says it's supposed to be for 6 to 8 hours. It normally heats for 10 to 12 hours, and it just feels good. Like the Thermacare wraps are fantastic. So if you have any muscular injuries, I would highly recommend. Very, very Bool. And then the second thing is courtesy of JT, or a shout out to JT, is he directed me to an office furniture warehouse that sells used office chairs from like corporations. And for people who don't know, if you want to buy a nice chair, it could be upwards new. It could be from 800, 500, 800 to 2,000-3,000 for these nice ones. These office chairs, like think the bottom like of the barrel steel case and Heron Miller's start at like $800 and $900. And so I went to this place, and he had like one of the comfiest chairs I ever sat in. The only problem is that it didn't have like a headrest, so I caught
What a
like I
claim.
got a number with him and stuff. But a $800 or $900 chair was selling for $200, and he was willing to like do some wiggle room with me to like knock some price off too. So like fantastic value. So I highly recommend like these used office furniture warehouses if you need to buy a prime chair, because they like even had like top of the line ones that might have cost $1,500 to $2,000 for like 400 or $500 used. I know there might be some shady like back leans. I've heard stories of people like when they know their office is like closing out, they like whack 10 of the chairs and just sell it to this like a guy like this and stuff. But I don't know. I don't care where they came from. They were fantastic value, and I highly recommend. So those are my two Bools. And then
Shout out Justin.
Shout out Justin. Sub bust would be Icy Hot's adhesives, which never work.
So just basically, this is a big advertisement for Thermacare or Thermowraps.
Yeah, you put it on. Yeah, Thermacare sponsor us. You put it on, and like literally 10 minutes, it will start peeling off. It's like a bad Band-Aid. Yeah, it's just bad.
Does it get hot enough?
I wouldn't know, Brian, because it comes off in 10 minutes.
You put it on your neck?
Yeah, Thermacare one does get hot, and it's toasty, and it lasts for like 10 solid hours. So yeah.
When I used Icy Hot, I would use it on my like lower back, and it would stay on for a good amount, but definitely not as long as it was supposed to. So I co-signed the adhesive being shit.
Yeah, I gotta tell Shaq to get on it.
Okay. He probably would listen if you ever could track him down.
Yeah. Okay, so Siebes, and then we'll go into Brian's top 5.
Or my top 5, bro.
Sorry, yeah. Keep saying it's Brian. Yeah, Sebastian's top 5. It's a music one, so naturally.
Yeah. So pretty basic. I'll start with the Bool. The Bool is that Alabama was included in the college football playoff.
It's already set?
Yeah, it's number 1, Michigan, 2, Washington, 3, Texas, 4, Alabama.
FSU got left out.
Which is crazy because they were the undefeated Power 5 champion, but I'm really glad.
That's crazy to me.
I feel really bad for them. It's very unfortunate because they did everything they could. But common sense had to prevail. And just after watching the games yesterday, there's no way that you could have been convinced that FSU was a better team than Alabama. And I think Alabama beating a team that was on a 29-game winning streak and winning the hardest conference in the country kind of has to mean something. It would have felt very fraudulent the entire playoffs if there was no SEC team. So I was quite happy when that happened because I don't know, yesterday in my other group thread, we were basically just talking about it all day. Like nobody could decide. It was the biggest clusterfuck I can recall since the BCS essentially. So the drama was also Bool, I guess, because it was made everything quite compelling. And I was just very happy Alabama got included. And
from a spectator perspective and like prestige perspective, yes, for sure, but just really harsh on FSU.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I would have kept Texas out if I'm being honest, but I still would have kept FSU out probably too. Like I would have put Georgia and Alabama, but I'm an SEC homer for no reason. I just love the SEC. I think it's the best product. Then my bust is going to be going full circle with something. I think I called this a bust in one of our first pods, but
it's twice in a week, bro.
The Golden Bachelor has concluded, and I have to say,
from what I saw,
dude, what I saw, what I saw, that show is fucking horrible. And the Golden Bachelor himself, kind of a piece of shit, if I'm being honest.
Why?
All he did all the time was cry. He cried so much,
Oh god.
and it was so unbearable. He was crying all the time, like, this is like one of the happiest days of my life. And just like fucking, he apparently is a huge fraud. Like, it came out fairly close to the finale that, because the whole thing he was saying on the show was like, I haven't been with a woman since my wife died. And then some woman came forward and was like, yeah, it's not true. I dated him. Like, I lived with him. And
No.
he broke up with me
Gotta
because
do it for TV, man.
I gained 10 pounds, so he broke up with me. And I gained 10 pounds from stress. So like
Ouch.
basically Gary, by the way, it's Gerry, but it's not Jerry, it's Gary. Gary with a yeah, so Gary is apparently just a huge scumbag. And also the woman he chose, like, I get it, I'm not gonna be super attracted to these women in this age range.
70-year-old woman, dude.
Yes. Like, I get it. It's not for me. But he chose like objectively a very annoying and not a great not a very attractive elderly lady, I'll say this, compared to what he could have chosen.
So you're saying that she was ugly on the inside?
She might have been an okay person on the inside, but she was very annoying. She was very, very annoying. But he's also very annoying, so maybe it fits. But if they bring this shit back for like Golden Bachelor 2 or the Golden Bachelorette, I think
Golden
people need to,
Bachelorette, dude.
yeah, people need to riot. And watching the show as much as I did, because I've never really watched The Bachelor, I would say like people, no offense if any of you have family members who are big Bachelor fans, but I'd say that the way people get so invested in The Bachelor is kind of just like the sign of a deeply sick society.
Everybody
Okay.
loves The Bachelor, so it's like
It's so
Nah.
bizarre though, dude. It's a
I think you're
terrible
being
show.
contrarian, if anything.
No, I've it's just a very bad show. Like, the concept isn't bad, it's the
It's a very
format of
vapid
it.
show.
Yeah,
very vapid for sure.
it's very stupid. Like,
And the real ones just become like a farm for influencers, basically. That's
yeah.
what they come through. Like, they don't want to do anything. So, and like I
It,
tuned into one in particular because I was very taken with one of the young ladies. Um,
was it a bachelor or a bachelorette?
uh, it was Pilot Pete season
I think I watched that too because one of my
because
roommates was watching
the
that.
ringer was into it. So
Actually,
yeah,
it was Pablo. My bad. It was Pablo, the one that I watched a lot of.
for sure.
Juan
But
Pablo or whatever
it,
the dude's
just to
name
get a
was.
taste of it, it was like it's really like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, really, for like what is deemed content. But I think Siebes, we don't need to talk about it anymore. I think you're well founded in it. So,
It's
anything
just
else?
all the reality shows on the network TV. The commercial breaks, they kind of make you want to just like rip your hair out because it's like, fam, like, you're teasing something huge. We're gonna come back. It's gonna be very mundane, and now we're just like stuck watching shitty commercials for 5 minutes, waiting for something not very interesting. So yeah, fuck The Bachelor and the Golden Bachelor all at once.
Very
Never
nice.
come back, bro.
Okay. Anything else, or we'll move to top
yeah,
5?
yeah. And they're having a live wedding on like ABC in early January. So
Oh, this guy's a piece of shit, dude. He just wants some shine in his late
So
years, dude. This guy's a
tune
piece
in
of
like
shit.
January 24th or whatever day it is.
Oh god, boo, dude. This guy's a huge. He's fishing. He's fishing for attention, dude.
It's quite bad.
Okay. Let's take a break and then we'll come back with top 5 bands. Top 5 bands. Siebes, you want to give us a reason why you were very eager to have this one for us?
So I had a good. There was an inspiration that I'm struggling to remember at this point. Honestly,
That's fair.
I think
It's a good one. Like, it made me
yeah.
think. So it's a good one. So no complaints. I'll go first because
Oh, it was Russillo had that Rob Hera Villa guy, is that his name? From The
Yeah.
Ringer, the music guy. He had him on his pod, and they were talking about bands from the '90s. And I was, oh, this is an interesting topic.
For sure.
I should listen to that.
Yeah.
I need the education, as you'll see. Okay, I'll go first. So, there's like I had a list of 10 of bands that I like, but then I narrowed it down to the ones that mean the most, or the ones I like the most. So at 5, Gypsy Kings. Argentin brought it up on one of the pods, but like there's 2 iterations of Gypsy Kings. One, when I was growing up, my parents would both be like leave for work before the time I wake up, so then my housekeeper would be there, or a babysitter, and she would play Gypsy Kings in the morning to wake me up. So that was the first time I listened to them. And then going back like 10 years later, we found a Gypsy Kings CD, and we'd always play it in the family like car and stuff. So I like Gypsy Kings a lot. Fourth one, it's kind of whack, but I really like, in popular film and stuff, whenever I hear their music, I just laugh, and it makes me smile in like a very weird way. But ABBA at 4, especially the Fernando episode of Community, which is based on every ABBA like episode. There's a different cut. It just makes me laugh. 3, I don't know if it counts, but this is my favorite. I know it's overplayed and everybody likes this music, but it's my favorite music to dance to, like at weddings in the dance floor type thing. Earth, Wind, and Fire. I don't know if that counts as a full band. 2 is one we talked about last week or week before, but they're like a very weird, odd band that has now become a symbol for a certain subgroup, the TV Girl. I think I'm not the biggest fan of the guy's voice, but he's really gifted at like using samples and making like melodic stuff. So I like TV Girl. And then 1, it was number 2 on my artist on Spotify. 2 of the top 5 songs. I'll bring it up later, but Tame Impala is probably my favorite band currently, and I think they're the most honest to what like true a band is, even though it's just one person. I think maybe if people are nitpicky, they say it's only Kevin, but I'm talking about him plus like Julian, Nick, all those like everyone who tours with them. So Tame Impala, and then my honorable mentions are Fleetwood Mac, The Shins, and Radiohead. Foster the People too. And I guess a big one, I think people who like knew me when I was younger, I was really into Coldplay, but the reality is I don't listen to Coldplay anymore at all. And I stopped for like many, many years. But it was an important phase in my life because it was like my introduction to music, along with like Kanye Graduation, and like Coldplay X and Y was like how I started listening to music as an angsty teenager. So I guess Coldplay too. So that's a lot. I said a lot, but it was a good one.
For sure.
So
I go next.
All right, for sure.
Interesting. There's a little bit of overlap, Ashwin. Not really actually, but some of the things you mentioned with your honorable mentions. But yeah, number 5 I have Radiohead. I love Radiohead. I think they just have a pretty unique sound. Well, definitely kind of more like alternative, kind of like wavy, kind of trippy sound. I really like OK Computer. Obviously, that's like one of their iconic albums. At number 4, I have the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Definitely, Southern California vibe. Classic songs, Snow, Californication, etc., etc. Can't Stop. I still listen to them quite a bit. I'm not much of a rock listener, so some of these are things that have just been a relic of having listened to it throughout my whole life. Like nowadays, I almost don't listen to any rock at all. Number 3 is The Pillows. This wouldn't be a Brian list without Little Weebin'. So they're like a very, they're like the most famous, essentially like the most famous kind of indie J-rock group. They had a bunch of songs in animes. They just have a lot of really cool, catchy stuff that I really grew up listening to and enjoying a lot. Number 2, I have the Foo Fighters. Enjoyed the Foo Fighters a lot. I actually got into them through, it was like an NBA mixtape video. Somebody did it to Best of You. I downloaded it. It was super long ago, and that's how I actually got like an introduction to the Foo Fighters. But I've listened to them all through my life, and a lot of classics. And number 1 is actually maybe I don't know how many people. I mean, they're a very, very popular group for sure, a band, but I don't know how if people like them as much as I do. Is Incubus? I liked
Oh, that's
Incubus
excellent.
a lot. Yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot
a
about them.
lot growing up. I think all of their albums are sick. They have a very unique sound. Drive, Wish You Were Here. There's so many, but they're definitely my favorite group. My favorite band throughout the years. Yeah, that I still listen to a lot. And some of my honorable mentions were Coldplay, like you mentioned, a little bit too emo for me, I think nowadays. But I definitely had my emo high school phase where I'd be listening to Coldplay. I don't know, emo about what? About nothing.
With a hoodie on.
And then Blink 182 was another honorable mention. Actually, I don't really listen to too much punk, but this is the mainly the only punk group. Obviously, they're one of the biggest ones. There's a lot of classics that really lasted in my mind with Blink 182. So that's my list.
Good list.
You don't.
Like I would say like you can tell that me and Brian are like super versed in like what classic rock and like 70s, 60s, 80s rock. Is that fair, Brian? And then you see
Definitely
like
fair.
what our options are other than that, and I think it's it's like speaks well to who we are as people. But go ahead,
For
Seeps,
sure.
because you have a good history of like rock and
Well,
stuff
no,
in
I was just
general.
gonna say to Brian before I get started. You don't listen to the Offspring or USC fellow alums band?
I actually don't too much.
Yeah,
Can't say. I did know that. I did know they were loves, but
I think
I
only
actually
the
don't.
lead singer is. He was like a grad student for like some insane
For sure.
biochemistry or some shit.
Yeah, for sure. I knew there
So
was some link. Yeah.
yeah, some smart ass guy. But so I have a pretty set top four, I realized, and five was extremely difficult. So for my five, I went with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but
Hmm.
U2 was also in consideration.
Nice.
I'll just say that.
Oh,
Yeah, it was quite difficult, but I chose Tom Petty, just edging him out. Mainly because I think he was a cooler guy than Bono is, honestly.
Bono. Yeah, I was gonna say the Bono, dude.
Yeah, basically
Come
just because
on, bro.
Bono kind of rubs me the wrong way, and oftentimes. And also, I feel like Tom Petty had a longer peak of making good music, whereas U2 has kind of fallen off in their later years. I mean, that probably helps that Tom Petty isn't around anymore to make music, unfortunately. Rest in peace. But U2 just hasn't really been great in a while.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Four was System of a Down. Um,
Oh,
One of my favorite bands of all time, easily. Wish they were still around. Seeing them in concert was phenomenal, and really just kind of grew up on their music. Um, and I appreciate like the
Surge,
overtones of what
bro.
they said. Surge is a genius, man. Um, Three, I have Sublime. Wish they had a larger catalog. That would be the only drawback. But the one album that in particular I think everybody knows is just kind of a classic, and I feel like I could probably sing the whole thing front to back, pretty much every word, just because I grew up on it. Like it's one of my biggest childhood memories, I guess you would say, is just like listening to Sublime while going to soccer practice or basketball
For
practice
sure.
for like years. Um, Two, I sometimes will shit on this band's like later career, but there's no denying that up until their biggest album, the Black Album, it's Metallica, by the way, just to get that out the way.
Yeah,
Get up until the Black Album, I feel like that run is absolutely legendary. And there's like a period of my life where I just listened to the first like three Metallica albums nonstop when I was at the gym. So yeah, I just think lyrically you don't hear metal often have as good of lyrics as Metallica had. Like they actually were saying things between the thrashing music, I guess you would
Are
say.
they still performing?
I think they
I feel
are.
like they still do occasionally, right?
Yeah, I think they do. I just know they've slowed down. Like they can't play as fast as they once did, I don't think. And James Hetfield's voice has kind of dramatically changed. He doesn't sound nearly as good, but they still are good. I'm pretty sure when they perform. And one is the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh,
Oh,
Just
interesting.
really love Billy Corrigan, and
his
I
music,
think
right?
yeah, No, I love the man. A great guy. He does seem like a cool guy. But I'm not in love with Billy Corgan.
Except for the cult, right?
Does he have a cult?
Yeah, I was
Leto?
reading some things. No, I know Jared Leto. But Billy Corgan also has gotten some like cult type shit as well, and like I've heard some bad stories about him as a person.
Oh
so
no!
yeah,
I don't know that I see this after doing a quick Google search, but I'll have to dive deeper into this.
let me look it up and send
It
it to
wouldn't
you.
shock
But
me if he was,
I
because
don't want to. I don't, like.
you don't
Yeah,
want to get sued for
I don't
libel.
want to burst your bubble. He's
I
very
don't
good
really
music.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another thing where lyrically I just feel it captures a mood, and I also just the sound is very diverse. I mean, you can go from like Bullet with Butterfly Wings to Today and get a totally different vibe from them. And I've always felt like they have a very unique sound, and I've always really appreciated the creativity.
For sure.
And for honorable mentions, I had The Pretenders, um, Leonard Skinner, and this one I went back and forth because if they were a band, I would have probably had them top 5. But LaRue is one of my favorite acts. But I feel nowadays they just have um, Elle performing by herself. Like they broke up quite a while ago, and she just assumed the name, so it's just her, but it's still called LaRue. So I feel that
Yeah, LaRue's
complicates
sick.
the band aspect of it. And also like Red Hot Chili Peppers, I got into them later in life, but because I grew up hearing from my dad that they were a terrible band. Then I like actually started listening to them, and I was like, no, this shit's really good.
Why
Like,
does your dad not like the Red Hot
I
Chili
don't know.
Peppers?
The guy's he's kind of weird, man. You know.
No, it's distinct taste. It's fine.
I think he just said all their songs sound the same, and like I get that sometimes. Like the vibe is kind of similar on a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
But
kind of
like
the point. I feel
you
like.
listen to the words, and it's just like this shit is very profound. Like, uh, I became a really really big fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers when I was living in LA. So
Man's been
they would
through a
have been
lot.
what
The
Anthony?
man's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has been through a lot. So they're an honorable mention too. So that was the list, and I thought it was a good top 5 for us to do, kind of to explore like a side we probably because I don't really listen to rock anymore either. But like it's interesting when you go through it and you're like, damn, that band was actually like the shit. I should start listening to their music again or something. Or
Yeah,
that
like
was
who
how I
are
felt. Yeah.
today's rock bands?
It kind of died out, man.
This what's it called? Bastille and
Imagine Dragons is one I saw.
Arctic Monkeys.
Yep.
I don't know if
Yeah,
Arctic
exactly.
Monkeys.
Those
I
types.
liked
Exactly.
Arctic Monkeys, but I realized
I
Arctic
like the
Monkeys.
Arctic Monkeys,
But
but
the
that's not
problem.
like today's band, really. Like
I don't know if
they've been
It
around
is.
for a while.
Yeah,
They've been
it's
around for
true.
a while, though.
And
I'm saying, like,
the
what are some
problem.
bands coming up now?
I don't know,
They're
man.
all K-pop bands.
Oh, no, New Jeans.
Yeah.
There's New Jeans, dude.
Kind
No.
of Vance,
One
whatever that guy's name is, Vance Joy,
one honorable mention
something
I
like
forgot
this.
to mention. Every time I think about them, it makes me smile. Is the Doobie Brothers and the the 40-year-old version scene where Paul Rudd's about to like break down and he's just like trying to imitate Michael McDonald. Like, I'll y'all know what I'm gonna be. Y'all know. Y'all know.
Wow, dude. Damn, dude. That was so clear. That was crystal clear, dude.
Maybe not Husk, but that's my best Michael McDonald. But yeah, let's move to song of the week then. That you can see where my taste comes from and how it translates to song of the week, as you. As you guys know, Spotify Wrapped came up this week. Apple Wrapped, whatever, YouTube Wrapped for those of you on these other platforms. So I was very surprised to see this song at number 2. But then when I thought about it, the song is okay. I like it enough, but at the end there's an outro, and I really like the outro a lot. So I asked Brian to play the outro, but it's a Tame Impala song, as I mentioned earlier, my favorite band. But Is It True? And then the outro. So that's it for this week. We'll figure out if it's 24th or 25th next week. But as I mentioned, I want to do something with the guys and some plans ahead for some segments with Brian and Siebes getting their own segment as well. So looking forward to hearing from them. Thanks for joining again, Siebes. Brian, thanks for your time. See you guys next week.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Peace.
We were talking about